Kind people, I recently had a teenager say to me, Rob, why have you got a knitting needle in your logo? And I said, it's not a knitting needle, it's a stick. I mean, a stick is so central to African culture and African storytelling, and particularly when one is holding the stick, you have the opportunity to speak. I was lucky enough when I was at university to do a huge amount of traveling in Africa on motorcycles. And whenever I came back from a trip, there was always a group of people who wanted to hear about the experiences on the motorbike. And unbeknown to me, I was developing in their minds a reputation as a storyteller. One of them subsequently became curator of the Rockstrift Museum and recommended me in a very chance conversation to David Rattray. Would you believe on the 26th of this month, it was 11 years since his life was snuffed out that dreadful afternoon in his home in a botched robbery at Fugitives Drift, aged 48. And I worked with David Rattray for many years and then continued with the storytelling at Fugitives Drift thereafter. But I always felt in this age of change and transformation that there was more required, that I needed to change my approach and to change the number of stories I was telling. I'm essentially interested in human beings. I'm fascinated by the behavior of human beings, particularly when the chips are down. So I began to look at other arenas of human exploration and human experience in which to diversify my talks. And I have since specialized in talks on the Antarctic and the Arctic. Amazing how few South Africans even know the difference between the Antarctic and the Arctic. I spend a month or more every summer in the Antarctic working on expedition ships, and then do likewise in the Arctic and the Northwest Passage. And I want to tell you that the stories that come out of these chapters of human exploration and human behavior are exceptional. And one of the key characters central to stories of the Antarctic is a remarkable man called Ernest Henry Shackleton. You know, Shackleton began his Antarctic career with Scott, 1901, 1902. They developed a major personality clash and never shared a major expedition together again. Shackleton, in this age of change, was revolutionary. He was a man who I feel lived his life like the rushing wind, and with cavalier methods using petrol engine motor sledges, Siberian ponies, dogs, and then man-hauling, got to a position only 97 miles from the pole on the 9th of January of 1909, an achievement for which he was knighted. He was then to sit on the sidelines as Scott and Amundsen raced for the pole. Amundsen winning that race by 34 days, Scott and his party of 4 other men dying to a man on the way back to their base on Cape Ross. It was Scott who, when he turned at the pole with an 880-mile, more than 1,400-kilometer trek ahead of him, wrote in the footnote in his diary, "Can we do it?" I think that little pineal gland was telling him clearly that they had died psychologically in the moment they realized they'd been beaten by the Poles, rather to the pole by the Norwegians. Isn't it staggering to consider that Shackleton would then attempt a crossing of Antarctica from one edge to the other, a distance of 1,800 miles, more than 3,000 kilometers, most of it uncharted. And what followed has become one of the greatest stories of survival and navigation of the modern age. Their ship was crushed by moving ice, leaving 28 men and 57 dogs floating on the sea ice of the Weddell Sea. And Shackleton was a man who always said, we must change our response to changing circumstances. Well, what happened by staying together, he would eventually extract all 28 men alive from the depths of the Antarctic sea ice. It was an adventure that lasted 21 months, a story that most folks are blissfully unaware of. And most folks are unaware that Shackleton died of a heart attack, aged 47, on the 5th of January of 1922 at Grytviken, a whaling station on South Georgia. I go there every year to pay my respects, and I'm fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to propose a toast to a man that they called the boss. And on the back of his grave is a little inscription by his favorite poet, Browning, which reads, "I hold that a man should strive to the uttermost for his life's set prize." And carrying on from what Bev was saying about trust and credibility, And what my dear friend Bruce Whitfield was saying, I would love to be engaged, to try through the power of storytelling to get you and your clients to strive to the uttermost for their life's set price. Thank you all very much.